Welcome back. We have missed your super interesting conversations. How have you been?
Thank you. I've been great. Thank you for having me back. I'm so happy to be here.
I think we have our work set up for us in today's episode because it's one of the trickiest things to talk about. Judgment, to judge or not to judge.
That is the question.
Exactly. I know this is something you love to talk about, and I want to start off the conversation with kind of the very simple, basic reality that as soon as you have judgment, that means there's an expectation there. They go hand in hand. And the expectation is usually colored by our individual preferences. And of course, as human beings, we have this very vivid imagination that, on top of the preferences, paints all the little details of what everything is supposed to look, feel like, we do the whole story in our head. So it's so much. So, of course, the reality, whatever you're experiencing, in compared to what's happening in your brain, we can fall short. And that's when it becomes like, oh my God, or other people in our mind, how they are supposed to behave, how the situation is supposed to be, falls short. So again, we end up in this place of judgment, expectations, disappointment, not feeling enough, not feeling like the other person is good enough or the what's happening is good enough. And it's the cycle. So
Yeah.
how do we navigate, that road? Because I know a lot of the teachings are, from Ramdas, from Joe Dispenza, from Bashar, from so many, from Eckhart Tolle. Let go of the expectations, right? Singer, everybody, let go of the expectations. Just be present, experience what's happening. But again, we are human beings. So how do you navigate the road of not having the expectations and at the same time having your preferences? Because we do have them. We can't really deny them completely.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I see it, the difference between a preference and an expectation, preference, it's light, it's a choice. It's like saying, I prefer chocolate ice cream over vanilla. It's flexible. And if you get vanilla, it's not a big deal. It's like I mean, I have a preference of chocolate or vanilla, but either though, I mean, whichever I get, it's okay. It feels light. An expectation, it's much heavier, because when you say, I need chocolate and ice cream, and you don't get chocolate and ice cream, you feel unsatisfied. You feel upset, right? Expectations, I feel they're rigid. They're about attaching to a specific outcome. And when things don't go as planned, that's when frustration kicks in and judgment kicks in as well. It's not about avoiding preferences. It's about letting go of the need for them to unfold in a certain way.
Okay. It's a very fine line, from what I'm hearing you say, between having a preference and it becoming, you being attached to that preference. It's a very
Yeah.
fine line. Can you elaborate a little bit more for us on that?
Yeah. I mean, preference, again, it's the preference, well, either or, but when you
But
have
then
the
it's not a
expectation.
preference. Either or means it can be, because a preference also signifies you really would like a little bit more of one way or the other, right? Either
But
or
that's the
means
thing.
I don't care either or.
But you just said it, a little more of,
Hmm.
not that itself. The expectation is, I want that. The
Okay.
preference is, I would prefer more that, but if you give me that, it's fine. The expectation comes with a judgment. If I don't have this, I'm going to feel bad. There's already a judgment behind it. That's the expectation, that you wish for it to look in a certain way. Yet when you lower your barriers and just like, hey, you allow it to unfold, you're surprised that maybe there's something that you weren't aware of because of the expectation that it should look like a certain way. And you are open for, like, okay, let it unfold. And I know it's going to be, because if I'm following what excites me, what difference does it make the outcome? I'm excited in the process of that, So I feel like it's about not being dependent on, it's just being happy and fulfilled with what's unfolding.
and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, right? For our viewers. What about, there is a reason that I like vanilla. I've tried chocolate and I didn't like chocolate. So I know that I'm not really a big fan of chocolate. And if, I have one life to live, YOLO. And so I should get vanilla. I like vanilla. I know I don't like chocolate. I should get vanilla. For
Yeah.
all the people out there know what I'm talking about when they just want. So I can tell myself so many times, stay curious, try chocolate. You might like it this time, but it's like I try the chocolate and I still like vanilla. How do you deal in those situations?
But again, what you just created here, it's that possibility of you have the preference of vanilla. I am a vanilla guy. I love vanilla.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, if I go to if I really want ice cream and they don't have vanilla, it's fine. I can always get something else. I'm not attached and I don't have the expectation that, oh, if it's not vanilla, I don't want to try anything. If I want ice cream, my preference is always vanilla because I know how it tastes. I like to ask questions at any moment, and one of those would be, what else is possible here? What could show up that I haven't even imagined yet, right? So that way we're opening for possibilities. And like you said, if that's their expectation that I want this and it doesn't show up that way, of course, the judgment of past experiences that we've gone through, it's like, oh, I did it this way back then and it's not working. So the judgment comes in for an expectation that what if none of that happens? So what else is possible that I haven't that I'm not aware of?
No, I appreciate that because I think, we're using silly examples like ice creams and parties, but in essence, it is it can be applied to anything, which is if we want to put a big label on anything in life, new activities, new events, new jobs, people, whatever it is, if we just want to put a label, a sticker on it and decide that that's the end all, we have a long life that we live. It closes so many doors for us with the experiences. So it's breaking out of that mold, as you said, and I'm believing that their life is full of surprises. So you might just be surprised. In seconds we are assessing people around us, situations, everything. These are, we call them the first impressions, and so many studies show that these first impressions are actually very much on the target. It's something that has evolved with us through time. It's a life-saving mechanism in our system. So when we are going into this other world where we come to understand that we are one and there is no separation, and we should approach everything and everyone around us with love. But then at the same time, we live in our bodies that are these judgment-making machines, and everything is instantaneous. How do you resist that?
So here's the thing: we don't resist. We become aware.
Okay.
Right? Instead of judging, we don't resist. We just become aware. And there's like Carl Jung, the psychologist, said, the more you resist, the more that persists. Right? So, for example, a simple but powerful tool that I use is when instead of judging, I would say, interesting point of view. And we mentioned this before in our sessions, which I like to use. Instead of judging something, I would say, wow, that's an interesting point of view. It takes you away from the space of judgment, and you're no longer locked into the automatic reaction.
Sometimes, interesting point of view might be if someone is sharing a piece of information with you, and then you hear it, you digest it, and then based on that, you can kind of take a step back, as you said, and instead of right away reacting, be like, okay, let me think about this. What about the moments where you don't have that gap and there isn't enough space in the moment for you to take a step back? How have you noticed, has that mechanism changed inside of you? Is it a matter of that this changes with time, with doing the psychedelic experiences, or is it always the same?
No, of course. I mean, like anything, like everything, it's a practice. We practice so much to become the ones we are. It's like, oh, I'm like this. No, it's a choice. You've been choosing to be that way. But it's not that you are that. It's just unconsciously because we practice for many years. Like when you're driving and you're doing a lot of things, and yet you're driving, you're not all the way there. So even those moments when you say, well, I don't have a gap, we always have, even that fraction of a second, it's a gap. And instead of, it's not about fighting the judgment, but noticing if, is there anything else I can choose differently from here? And again, it's not like, okay, let me stop, let me take my time. No, this is happening like fractions of a second. When I say you stand back and perceive it, all of that is happening in a fraction of a second in your mind. And then when you step back and you say, wait, what is this? And instead of judging it, you choose something different from that perspective, right? And like Joe Dispenza talks about how our thoughts and emotions influence our energy and reality, right? So when we start observing our thoughts without reacting, we actually start shifting the experience of the world. I mean, for my world.
The judgment conversation, a lot of it is not just about the outside, but it's also about judging yourself, and I find that it's actually those people that judge themselves the harshest are the ones that tend to judge the world around them the harshest as well. It kind of goes hand in hand. So why do you think that, this dynamic gets built into us?
From my point of view, I feel that it comes from a conditioning, and the conditioning to protect ourselves. And I feel that it's really rooted in fear and comparison and the desire to control outcomes. And as we're growing, we compare with situations or people, and we are so judgmental of ourselves, right? I mean, sometimes when we're insecure, again, it's the outer, so within, so without. So we're reflecting that insecurities in our environment. Yet, is the environment insecure, or is it me who's insecure? And where is that insecureness coming from? Where is that judgment coming from? People might have judged me when I was little, say things, and then I want to prove them right or wrong. And it's that judgment trying to prove. And in that trying to prove, there's nothing really to prove. It's a reflection of myself. When we open ourselves for more kindness, it goes towards me and the other.
Yeah.
Because again, why would I be judging them? What is it about that I'm judging? It's just a reflection of what am I judging them that it's also within me. We are projecting our insecurities or unmet expectations on them. And again, this is some subconscious. This is not like, oh, I'm doing it on purpose. No, this is just a subconscious that, just like Joe Dispenza, everything that we're thinking, it's a projection of ourselves. So when we change, when I change, my circumstances also change, because now instead of judgment, it's like, okay, what is it about here? What else is possible here that I'm not seeing? Instead of judging, what could I learn from this situation?
So if I myself have gone through the experience of being betrayed, then that becomes a filter. And I'm sure there's a lot of internal judgment that happens where I'm just saying like, how could this have happened to me? How could I have not seen it? How could I have done? How could I, like we beat ourselves up. Like there's the internal judgment of saying, how could I have not seen this?
You're creating that vibration for that energy to show up. Okay. So in the moment that you're judgmental with yourself, like I'm not good enough, or what is he gonna do, or he's not the best for me, that it's also that reflection. Oh, she's not the best for me, or what is she gonna do, or da 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 da. We're just reflecting the same thing that we're projecting unconsciously. We're judging so much that we're creating that judgment to reflect back.
Okay.
And instead of saying like, why is this happening? Like, why is he behaving like that? We could, as we go and have these tools, like, what is this information trying to tell me? Mm-hmm. What's right about this that I'm not seeing? What is it that I could change in this situation instead of judging this, and I'm not allowing change because I'm judging that that's bad?
Mm-hmm.
What if it's not that? What if it's just information that if I see it and I see it from another lens or another perspective, I can change the point of view, and that which I perhaps felt before, like, oh, he's acting really weird and that shouldn't be. Well, how could I act now for that not to feel weird, but for me to approach that with curiosity? One of the four agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz is don't take anything personal. It's not personal. We all are
So
going through this,
hard.
we are all going through this unique human experience. You know, our past doesn't define our present. There, it is just information. It's what I do with it. It's how I take the information and how I digest it and how I bring it back. You know, how I filter the information. Again, Bashar would say, everything is neutral. There's no embedded meaning in anything. It's the meaning that I give to X or Y situation. But we tend to give the meaning from past experiences because, oh, again, this is going to happen again. No, that's happening again because you're creating more of that again.
Maybe your actions may have helped to create that dynamic, or maybe not. Maybe that was that person to begin with. We are always navigating between, once awakened, understanding the spiritual side, but the human side, heartbroken, sad, the emotions.
Is it betrayal or something else? Again, where would you conclude that it's that? What if it's just a way to describe that, hey, I am not the one, and it's just an information that for you see it like, oh, that's betrayal, but that is just an information that if you see it as something different, like what else is possible here? What else could be? What if that's not the one?
Okay.
What if it wasn't betrayal? What if that experience showed me a form of a human to be which I don't like? And
Okay.
that itself is the information behind it. I don't like that. Okay, now I know what I like and what I don't like. I don't judge it. It wasn't pleasurable, but now I know. And what's right about that I'm not seeing? What's information behind that? If I use it wisely, it can empower me for my next decisions with a partner, or taking action in how I can approach it differently. Again, we call it betrayal, yet for him, maybe it's not that. It's just his way of how he learned to experience life because of past experiences, or his or her environment of
Mm-hmm.
how he or she was grown and showed and programmed. Because again, this is another topic, but yet everything is just a program. We've been programmed to react or act in a certain way. That's good, that's bad, that's betrayal, that's it, that's awful, that's.
I think we're coming back to the beginning of the conversation and saying that it's almost like you develop this detachment. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say. The detachment of really being able to look at whatever information is coming your way without so much of a vested interest in how it plays out. That is definitely going to be one of our episodes about, because in essence, this is how do you remain present, right? Because to be truly managed to kind of be more detached, we're talking about constantly being present, which again, because of our human imagination as human beings and how much we like everything to, have the happy ending at the end or whatever it is. I think now, because you kind of hinted at it when you were speaking now, this concept of acceptance. Because if you have the detachment, you also have a kind of surrender and radical acceptance. I think that's a word that's been used around a lot now recently, this kind of concept of radical acceptance. Can you foster, develop radical acceptance for whatever is happening in your life? And knowing what we know, that we do have preferences and we do have first impressions, and we do have all these mechanisms that are going on within our mind to a constant fight or flight or whatever it is. But so how do you navigate between acceptance, but as you just said, like not condoning it? Like, how does that work? Because I think that's one of the hardest things in trying to integrate these experiences into real life, because you don't want anymore to hold anger. or
Yeah,
towards anybody because it's coming from a place of love. But at the same time, you don't let the person keep slapping you in the face, right? So how do
yeah,
you accept and not, and
yeah. I
there's
mean,
judgment also. Tricky question. I told you it's a tricky subject.
yeah, but again, I mean, it all depends. What reality am I creating? I could step back without judgment and just ask the question, what is this bringing up for me? What else is possible here for me? Because again, at the end of the day, the one who's living my life, it's me. It's not, I'm not living for that person. It's for me.
Mm.
Yet, what is that experience of that person bringing me? And how can I act upon that experience instead of judging that? Oh, that's bad. It's like, okay, what can I do in order for my reality to start showing up differently? And again, it's not about changing his way, it's about changing my way. Because when I start shifting, my reality will start to change. Judgment is just the point of view. It's not the ultimate truth.
No.
So when we realize that, we can begin to manage it differently, you know. And instead of banging more like I don't want that, because again we go back to the Carl Jung. The more you resist, the more that persists. The more you don't want something, the more of that you're perceiving because you're focused on that. So
Okay.
again, in the quantum is everything exists. Just where you're focusing on, that more of that you're going to experience again, right?
Okay,
So
so
it's
that
just
that maybe is the biggest thing here is that this desire for, and maybe that the harnessing power behind that is that fear, that desire for certain things not to exist, our internal battle, the fear inside that I don't want this thing to exist. And it can be the example of, maybe someone losing a loved one or whatever it is, just really fighting the existence of this event or thing or person or situation in your life because you are not, you're as a human being, maybe the fear is so overwhelming for you to fully accept what is happening.
it's just understanding it and questioning it, and yet again choosing something more expansive. Again, is where we're focusing our attention. So why focus on that? Why not, like, again, we're focusing on a person that it's transitioning, right? And we're focusing on all of that. How would it be to focus on all the great things this person has shown us
Okay.
and change the energy, so for something more expansive? Thank you for everything, thank you for your being here, thank you for all your teachings, thank you. And that just shifts it, like, oh, I'm gonna miss you, you're not gonna be again. And again, you're shifting a possibility of just of gratitude,
Okay.
you know yeah.
Um, I've been getting a lot of questions about our conversations and, a lot of very curious people about the experience. So I don't know. What do you think? I feel like maybe we need to organize a retreat here and allow people to, actually experience all this, hopefully messages that we're trying to share with them.
Totally. I would be more than happy to navigate or allow people to go through these experiences where they can not only get it from an intellectual level, but also from an embodiment of, oh, I get it. I get what you mean. And again, words just limits. It's just words are just a translation of energy. Sometimes words cannot describe what we're going through, and yet we try to put words and reframe things in words where just words itself are very limited. That's why you don't tell people how to live life. You experience life, you live life. It's like a bungee. As much as I tell you how it is to bungee jump and how you're going to feel, you got a bungee, you got to jump,
So,
right?
guys, are you ready to bungee with us? I think we're gonna organize a little bungee jump for a few people because I know that we from your style and from having experiences with you, you like to keep it very intimate. It's a one-on-one experience. So I think we need to organize a bungee jump for a select few that maybe can reach out to us and share their story and what maybe they are hoping to accomplish. What do you think?
Yeah, I would be more than happy to, guide people in this this journey and this new awareness of life. And yeah, this game, the game of life, and how to really fully play with it.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's really, it's like teach me how to play. Teach me how to play with life. Teach me it's funny that you bring up the word play, because I was listening to Jordan Peterson the other day, and the last person, and I really expect him to say play because he's such a serious guy and all his stuff is very like intense. But he was doing an interview with his wife, and they were asking him about, summarize love in your marriage, in your relationship, and he said it's learning how to play, and I was like, this coming out of Jordan Peterson, I was like, okay. And again, he's explaining that much like what you're saying, it's that you know as kids we knew how to play with each other, and we lose that as we get older. But in essence, if we can keep, it's as you said, play is that openness to try things your way, try things my way, not really having to have one rigid thing in place, because your imagination is, what takes over everything. And if I can pull you into my fairy tale and you can pull me into your storyline, then it becomes even much more interesting and intriguing and fun for the both of us. So there's so
Hmm.
much different dynamics in play, that I think it's probably one of the most underrated words for adults. Whereas it's like, if we just, all of us, were able to play a little bit more, I think life would be very, very different.
Totally. I mean, I feel it's also this idea that it's playing is just for kids. Oh, you have to take life seriously. It's not a play. It's like it is a play. Everything is a play.
Yeah.
We're playing this character. See it as a play of a game or a play of a theater. I'm playing in this avatar, and I'm playing in this game with society. I'm playing with my partner. I'm playing in the sense that, okay, what would we like to experience in this reality? How
Well,
do we want to
we
play?
want to bungee with you.
Let's bungee. Let's all bungee.
I think this is definitely what we want to do. Thank you as always, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. See you in the next time.